What's up, everyone? This is Ryan. We're here in the Jump Seat Studios, and I'm over here we're recording Hoarder Homes Piles of Hazards for online consumption. So it's a class that we do, or that I do, around the country, and I'm kind of wading through the weeds, so to speak. So I'm over here with my handy dandy notes, and we're talking about fighting fires inside compulsively hoarding or heavy content conditions. And we always start with it's on fire, right? That's why we got called, because we are the fire department. Which you can see here in my terribly written, horribly written thing is we have a fire. All right. So then the decision-making process has got to go, is it occupied? If it is occupied, are we going for rescue? If we're not going for rescue, are we going for suppression? These things can happen simultaneously if you have a big enough department, if you have the manpower, if you have the staffing to make them both happen at the same time. That's fantastic. Yay you. Let's say that you don't. Let's say that you're the first due crew, your second arriving's not there, you got to make that assessment. Well, then it comes down to your assessment. It comes back to what Andy Starnes teaches us with the tactical 380. That's where we take our thermal imaging camera and we scan around the building. The one thing about heavy contents that really stands out as far as scanning the building is we're looking for the path of least resistance. So we're looking for the ways that the occupant actually finds or makes their way inside the house. So there could be a pathway outside. It may not be the front door anymore. It may be a window. It may be something other than a primary means, or what you and I would consider a primary means of entrance. Once we do our assessment in our tactical 380, which the extra 20 degrees always comes from looking inside their vehicles, we're going to start thinking about the fire location and the potential for the victim location. The victim location is something that needs adjusted for in heavy content conditions, because a lot of times they start filling the house so compulsively, so much stuff that they don't use it for the intended purposes anymore. Commonly, the first two places to become full in a house will be the attics and basements. And commonly, the last two places are kitchens and bathrooms. The only one way of knowing that for sure is to write it down, like if you've been there for a medical assist, if you've been there for some sort of a EMS run. So if you've been there before, you make a pre-fire plan. Other than that, when you're making your tactical 360, or you're making your assessment for both victim location and fire location, we're going to talk about using the tactical 380. We're going to leave the windows in place as much as possible, and we're going to try to assess the thickness of the clutter. And what I mean by that means is there a pathway? If there's not a pathway, likely that's just a storage container. If there is a pathway, maybe that is an occupiable space, and that's something you need to assess in a time-compressed manner when you arrive on scene. After that, we're going to talk about victim locations, and what we've been talking about is victim locations. So kitchens and bathrooms may be usable space if they were alerted to the fire and they were able to extricate themselves. Maybe that's where they're at now. Before you take that bedroom window, let's assess it and see if it's cluttered, see if it's got a pathway in there, and see if it's an occupiable space. Fire location, we're always looking for the seat of the fire. Thing about hoarding conditions or heavy content conditions is we can't make access to the seat of the fire. So eventually we're going to have to make our way in. The process of finding our way in is a little bit more complex, and it's not so easy as just crawling a hallway. We may have to breach an exterior wall. We may need to crawl the hallway, then breach an interior wall to make access to it. So in future videos, we'll talk about indirect fire methods, indirect assessments, or indirect application of water, because eventually we want to try to get to that seat, and making our way into that seat of the fire is this is the goal of the fire suppression. So we're laying it out here. We've got fire suppression, or we've got a structural fire. We're talking about rescue versus suppression. We're talking about our tactical 380, which we just finished the video on that one. So after that, we're going to talk about victim location. Victim location and fire location both depend on pathways. Key to the success to getting to the patient, or the space that's survivable, or the seat of the fire, the pathways. All right, that's it, everyone. Thanks for watching into this video. Make sure to like and subscribe. Like, subscribe.